welcome to Tea Talk, where the topics are relaxing, relevant, and real. Enjoy the show, ladies.
Thank you, Flair. Listen, welcome to Tea Talk and with Lady O, and I'm so happy you're here. And as you all can see, I am representing the 4th of July. This show is going to really be informative as well as eye-opening. So I've got the shades on now, but it's just the way we used to do things when we were little. We always had our 4th of July shades on, right? Now, these kind of came from like the dollar store places, but I imagine you guys have some really expensive ones by now. So I've got my little flag here, my little beanie baby. I've had this for a long time, and so I always bring her out when it's the 4th of July. She's got her little tutu on, because I love tutus. But anyway, what I want to do today is, first of all, let you know that we're going to learn the truth about the 4th of July. A lot of revelation is going to be coming forth. God is speaking, and our country is confessing. Okay, so we need to make sure that all of our family and friends are on so they can hear the truth. So the truth will make you free. So we talk about freedom. We talk about independence in our country. How many of you know, Black folk, this holiday was not made for you? Okay, we came along a little bit late on, added on, but it was not independence, and they were not thinking about you because you were not even a person. You were property like the cattle. So it's just like saying the cattle celebrate the 4th of July. No, because it wasn't for the cattle, right? It wasn't for us. But we're going to go over, help you understand a couple of things that we have learned and we're learning, and tie it into what's happening today. This is a year that we are having a reawakening. We got to redo some stuff and get it right and firm it up so it doesn't ever happen again, or else we're going to be what I call on the plantation again for a very long time. Our children and grandchildren will inherit this plantation style government that was formed years ago. It was never really broken down and done away with. So here we see it reared its ugly head again today in the things that are going on in the news with our Congress, with our government, our past president, and with the things that are going on in the state of Texas. So it's not too late. You need to share this, share this, share this. It's going to be a show that you will want to listen to over and over again to get information. Now listen. So what I'm going to do is take these shades off, because that's the way African Americans have been looking at the 4th of July, through cheap shades that keep you from seeing the truth. So today we're going to put on the real glasses and we're going to help you learn the real truth, because we're going to be free and God is for us, right? Hey, now I can see much better. Oh my goodness. If you think about it, put on a bad pair of sunshades. It'll show you what you're looking like when you look at what's going on in America with Black people. Now, so I'm going to start this off by with a quote from Frederick Douglass, if I can put it up here on my phone. If not, I'm going to paraphrase it. But anyway, it's not coming up. Okay, I'll get it in a minute. But what Frederick Douglass said after they asked him, what do you feel about, the 4th of July, Independence Day? How do you feel about it? What does it mean to the slave? What does it mean to African Americans? So this is what I read that just got me, that just goes right along with what we're looking at today. When we celebrate the 4th of July, Pastor Johnny, it is a reminder of broken covenants and broken lies and those kind of things that we've had to deal with over the years. We have been lied to, we've been abused, and covenant after covenant, year after year. Even now, we've got broken covenants with the Supreme Court. We thought we were this, we thought we were that, and now it's broken. We thought we would never be able to reverse things that have been in effect for 40 years. But guess what? They did in the blink of an eye. They told us they were going to do it, and they did it. So we have got to wake up, and we've got to make sure that we do something about it. This is an election year for the state of Texas. And with all the things that are handed to us in our laps that should encourage us to vote like we never voted before, it's here. It keeps popping up. And I believe it's because God allows it to help us to open our eyes and get involved to make this change. So I want you to, so anyway, he said that's what he feels. He feels that the 4th of July means to African Americans or to slaves. It is a reminder of the lie. It's a reminder of broken promises. It's a reminder of taking back the Black Wall Streets and just doing as they will with us as a people, taking away our voting rights. You know, that's what's going on right now. So we need to understand that, and we need to wake up and get up and do something about it, or else we're going to be in for another couple of decades, probably at least another decade, that we're trying to recoup it. And we're going to recoup it. We can recoup it now, or we can our children can recoup it in 10 years from now. So we don't want to hand this off to them. Our families and forefathers fought in the 50s and 60s for our rights. We don't want our children to have to be walking in the streets and fighting in bloodshed for those same rights to be gotten back. So we don't do something about it now, the children will have to do it, because we're going to be too old and some of us will be dead. And the powers will be in there legally. This is the thing about it. What they're doing is legal because they made the laws, and we didn't say anything about it or try to make it permanent. So now they're using it to their benefit, and it's setting us back. They are definitely looking to get their America back the way it was. And we have got to make sure we're not helping them. All right. So let's go back to the beginning. Like I said, when I was a little girl, and I've got my team on here with me, we're going to talk about what was the 4th of July to us when we were growing up. So Deborah, let's go with you. Miss Purple Queen here just had a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And so what was, when you can think back as far as you can remember about the 4th of July, what did you know about the 4th of July?
Well,
and how did you
we celebrated the 4th of July when I was younger, but it wasn't with the mindset of our freedom. We just celebrated because everybody else did. We didn't really talk about it. And then as I got older, it was celebrating because it was a free day off.
Come on, keep it real.
And we could spend time with family, and gather. So that's really what it was about for me.
Okay, Tisha, you're from California, and I know Deborah's from Houston, Texas. What about California? What do y'all know about the 4th of July? How did you celebrate it? You're mic'd. You're muted.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we basically did the same things, cookouts, a reason to be outside. The reason was never really brought to our attention. It was always just, it's the 4th of July, families getting together. But of course, as I got older and moved to Texas, I've been in Texas 23 years now. So
wow,
my ideals have changed. And I certainly, that's just no offense to anybody, but that's not a day I consider a holiday.
Okay, very good. Okay. And a lot of people just love it because it's a day off. They just know why they're celebrating, or really don't care about why they're celebrating. That day off. Okay, Miss Flair, Miss Louisiana. What were y'all doing in Louisiana on the 4th?
Celebrating like everybody else, just with family. My mom used to like to barbecue a lot. So that's all we knew. Family's coming over so she can barbecue for us.
Did y'all know why or what the holiday meant?
No, nothing at all.
Yeah.
And that's all I remember is just her having big barbecues at her house and people coming over.
And that's a good reason to celebrate. You good food, people do their best dishes and barbecue. And it's just a fun family time. For me in the projects, at that time when I was little, I remember I was in the projects. And the big thing I remember about the 4th of July was it was a time when everybody got something new to wear. I don't know if y'all did that, but we had to, you'd be ashamed to come out in the projects if you didn't have something new. The question would be, what you getting for the 4th? What you getting for the 4th, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what we did. We got on our clothes and that we had bought, usually a little cheap place. It wasn't Kmart. It was called HL Green. And we would go downtown and pick out the stuff in the little 5 and dime store, from the sandals to the head stuff. You know, we would be decked out in our 4th of July outfit. And we were ashamed to even celebrate the 4th without an outfit. So that's why I bought up the little glasses. We had our shades and everything was all matching. Cheap, but it was matching, okay? And so nobody told us anything about the 4th, about what it meant. I think it's something about the country's birthday, but I didn't know what that meant. I thought it's our country's birthday, but I never stopped. How does that impact me as a little Black child in the projects? I thought we were all celebrating the same. And of course, another thing, we had a thing we did every 4th. We would always get a watermelon. Now, a lot of people are ashamed to say that and stereotype, but I'm not. I love watermelon, and my grandfather was a farmer. And you know, he sold watermelons, so therefore you couldn't just eat a watermelon just to be eating a watermelon, you know, because that was his money, right? So if you had some little ones out in the field, he might let you cut that one open, y'all eat as grandchildren. But you know, we really did not, you know, eat it every day. But on the 4th of July, you know, it's gonna be plenty of watermelons, and we'd have this man come through called a watermelon man. And he said, watermelons, get your watermelons and ice cream and, you know, stuff like that, because we didn't go, we were in the city, but my grandfather gave them to us from the field. So I see I've got someone here. Let me read some of these comments. So Evera Williams, I hope I pronounced that right. She said, we celebrate like everyone else. The reason was never talked about. I don't think anyone knew there was a reason. And you are so right. We just celebrated because that's what everybody did. We had family reunions and things like that.
Right.
It was just a time for family to get together and celebrate as a family, barbecue and eat water and be outside. You would not dare be inside on the 4th of July.
That's right.
That's right.
And as we didn't really do fireworks, we couldn't afford a lot of fireworks, but my mother would do those little sparkle things.
Sparklers.
Yeah, and she would let us all light one. I was scared to death of them, and then you'd hold them out from me and do like this, you know, at midnight or whatever. And my grandfather was the time for them to shoot the shotgun, and once a year to make sure it worked. Yeah, in the country, they went out and shot their guns, and you would hear those. And you might see some, you know, some fireworks, but not very many. Just those firecrackers was the other one. My uncles used to get those firecrackers and throw them at us, and we'd be jumping around. Oh, no, don't do that. So that was pretty much the gist of what. As we got older, we were able to go to places where they did fireworks, and of course, we were invited. As we didn't realize back then, we couldn't go to those fireworks we saw on TV because Black folk were not allowed.
Right.
You know, as a little kid, we didn't know we couldn't go. We didn't know we couldn't go to all the different parks. And so as we got more parks, and as we talked about last week for Juneteenth, Emancipation Park and all those places, those became a part of where Black folk gathered that could do stuff like that. But when I was a little girl, you couldn't do that. So now, let's see, Etta Force and me too, we were told it is the country's birthday. What it meant, we were not told. And so that might be why we weren't told. Because a lot of things I'm finding and doing my research that our families, our forefathers did not want to talk about it because it was a lot of stuff. Now, I want to bring Pastor Johnny. I was just going to say, I'm glad you came in because today he preached an amazing sermon. And I told him in the middle, I said, you had no idea that I didn't know you were going to preach it. And he knew what he's going to preach. But what he preached about is, how does that, let me ask you, Pastor Johnny, now hindsight of 2020, whatever, how does that relate to, or what do you think about the 4th of July now?
Oh, it's very challenging, and I thought that's one of the great things that's already come out today in the Tea Talk, is that oftentimes we find ourselves just celebrating just to celebrate, and we miss the entire message behind it. And I think that when we look at this great country, and I'll say it's a great country as a whole, it has a way of placing celebratory moments there. And really, those moments really deal more with economics than they do the actual celebration themselves. So that's why they make every holiday attached to some type of sale, some type of an event. And then they get everyone, not just our community, but they get all communities just attached in this idea of having a day off and celebrating without being knowledgeable about why they're celebrating. And they're able to control the narrative by just getting everyone festive. And so I think that it's very key that what you're talking about today is trying to make sure that we not just celebrate, but that we have those moments as a family and as a community and as churches where we come together, sit, and actually discuss things so that we'll be knowledgeable on what and why.
Right. And that's my prayer for this show, that we will learn better so we can pass the stories down to our children so they will know. So we don't know, and we're over 40 and some over 50 and 60, and we didn't really think about it. We need to have the conversation before we eat or after we eat with our children so they can pass down and understand what's going on with the current times of what has happened, and understanding that they were not included or thought about with this celebration. So we celebrate, but we didn't find out for a long time later, and it was only after we were the 13th Amendment was added on, okay, and people had slaves. So
well, I thought that was key with the sermon today when we looked at that, this idea that sometimes we end up in situations where people don't honor their word, or where people are not righteous and honorable. One of the things that was not mentioned in the message today, that was that Laban's name meant white. And it wasn't that he had white skin, but he was considered, he looked honest. He looked righteous because of the way he presented himself. And he was also respected because he was a property owner. He owned, he had amassed some type of wealth, even though Jacob made him really prosperous.
Right.
So he had some things, and so he was honored and respected in his community. And that also caused Jacob to let down his guard because his assumption was that the person that he was dealing with was a righteous man. And I think that we have to be very careful too, because sometimes we have been conditioned to think that a certain person is always going to be honest and honorable. And we have to be aware that in our dealings, it's not that we should never come into covenant, but that we have to be aware that when we enter into these covenants, that we're entering sometimes into covenants with people who have no intentions of keeping their word. And then sometimes who try to keep their word, but for their own greed and self-preservation, will keep moving the mark, so that we have to keep chasing the mark and remain in a position where we can't prosper. And I thought that was one of the things that I was looking at when I was studying for the message today.
Now that was real key. Hold that point, because I want to go back to that. I want to bring up that last point, so write it down, about they want to keep us, they move the mark, because they want to keep us in this cycle here. But what I wanted to stop you on was, and just ask anybody who wanted to speak to that, or maybe just give maybe one or two things that you can see that's going on today. What is going on today that looks like we're having the same thing happen? What promises have been broken to the Black people? We can start with the 40 acres and a mule. I'll start with that 40 acres and a mule they promised us. A lot of us didn't get it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most well-known broken promises. And then we lead also into Juneteenth itself, in the sense that one of the things that came out last week during the discussion was that there were people that the slaves often knew that they were free, but they were in a position where it wasn't being enforced. So it wasn't always that they did not know about the Emancipation Proclamation, but they were not in a position to do much about it.
That's
because
it.
it wasn't being enforced in all of those areas. And so having that type of knowledge just kind of shows you a lot of the things. And then even once you see us emancipated, then all of a sudden we go through civil rights and see how we were given the right to vote. But then there was a concerted effort to make it difficult or impossible to vote in some areas. So that was something that was given to us. Then that was taken back or restricted.
The voting, right?
Yeah. And so even once you, I highlighted this in the message today as well, is that even once the slaves were released from bondage, they were supposed to be hired as labor, but they were hired as indentured servants. And they were told that they had to work off a certain amount to be able to pay for the land that they owned.
So the indentured servants is one of them.
Yeah, that's another
that the people never could get free. It's like then they started charging, well, you owe me room and board. You owe me for the food, or you broke the dishes. So you could never get out of that indentured servant thing. You could never buy your freedom. Even though you were free, you had to work to get out of this and save money. You never. So they made it impossible for you to be able to do what they promised, or to keep your part of the bargain, so you could never be free. Anybody else have another one? We got plenty of them. Let's see if anybody else wants to share one.
I could just come from education. Equal education is not equal anymore. From when I started in education and what's now, they've taken a lot of stuff away from our children. And going back to what it used to be.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. That's the whole plan, to take it backwards, okay? And so when you look at school board elections, and I can say that because I've been involved in what's going on in our schools, they want to, back when we were going, it was called the PTA, and we work with the parents, the teachers, and the press. Everybody worked together. Now, a select group of people want to take over the school board so they can control the books our children can have access to, the culture that we have got. Black History Month, now we don't know if that's going to be considered CRT, what is it, critical race theory. I mean, they're trying in so many ways to get into the education part of it. And, they had a big thing too, where they were trying to intimidate our historically Black universities. And so that's good. Anybody else have another one?
Didn't really have too many isolated, but just the overall look of how things have been presented to us, and how even the rights that we have been awarded should not have had to been awarded because we were human beings, and so we should have been included in the first rendition, as opposed to having been written in at a later date. And I don't think sometimes our Anglo brothers and sisters understand the ignorance and then also the humiliation of being a human being and having to be written in or acknowledged as a human being, when it was really just the ignorance, the greed, the cruelty of a people who would not acknowledge what God had already declared.
Exactly.
Then it's just
let me ask you this. Each one of you, just want you to kind of not expand on it too much, but do you in your heart of hearts think that white people see us as equal to them as a person, human being?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think they are.
I don't think that we can ever throw a blanket statement on everyone. Because I do know of some people that I would think do feel that way. But then I also know of some people who, like one or two of them I'm taking a break from now, who keep me around as a friend just to prove that they're not racist.
Say that.
But I can tell by our interaction that they really don't genuinely feel that way. It's just a good way to say, oh, that's the guy, that's my neighbor. And it's like, no, we're really not neighbors. You just pull me out when it's time to take the photo. And so I think that it's hard to throw a blanket statement, but yeah, there are some that do not think of us as equals. But I think that there are more people who think of us as equals, but are more intimidated by our history, and that understand that it is challenging for them to see a people group just like Jacob walk away with his family, and then to be able to move up the ladder and to be prominent because the hand of God is with them. And I think that there are more people that are intimidated than they don't think of us as equals.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheryl Johnson Foley says, I do not think they see us as equal. I feel Anglo-Saxon, they are intimidated by us and feel we are a threat. And I think that's absolutely what happened, like with Rosewood. They burned down the whole city. Black people were trying to work. They had everything going well. They felt intimidated and threatened, so they just burned down the whole city and killed a lot of Black people off. They call them uppity ends, and that's not for neighbor. And so you got Rosewood, you got Black Wall Street, and I just heard of the one in East Texas. I want y'all to look up this one in East Texas. There was another one, and I'm hoping that we'll get to do some history. I was looking up history on my own family because I'm from East Texas, and found out about this race war. Not race war. It was a, what do you call it, where you kill off genocide. There was a effort to do a genocidal killing of Black people in East Texas, and it was huge. And they don't want to what did I say? Was it Senegal? What was the name of the place I told y'all that was in East Texas? I just found out about it. I'm just shocked because my family was telling me about this place, and y'all can Google it too. It's not like a bad word, but it's just what they actually called it back. And my daddy and one of the other older relatives called it, and they didn't think twice about saying it because that was the name of the place. And I Googled it, and it came up. But it's called Nigga Nation. Yeah. Google it for yourself. It's there. And then you'll see the race riots that were done back to the Black people whose land was stolen. They would go in and just shoot them all up and move in on their property. Yeah. And the laws were such that there was nothing they could do about it. But a lot of that land is stolen by these kind of riots on Black people who had no guns. I won't say that. They didn't have a law on their side with the guns, because if they killed somebody, it was different. Now, I want y'all to understand that when we're talking about this is just history. It does not mean that all white people feel this way, because I do still have some white people that I feel that they are very genuine. But I tell you what, and I say this just to keep it real, the last couple of years with some of my white friends, I really, really wondered, do they really see me as an intelligent human being? Or do they see me as, oh, poor, she's my friend. As long as she stays in line and she doesn't get out of line, she can be my friend. And I've seen that a lot. And it's been very hurtful, but that's not all of them. I want to just commend those white people, and I call them good white people, who are willing to stand up and say what's right. Now, the problem I have is a lot of them are good, but they won't stand up and they won't say what's right because they're afraid of their other white people. And all the intimidation is just a few people. And when I say a few, I shouldn't say a few, because they got a lot of votes and they voted in a president.
Yeah, but I would still say that a lot of that is done out of fear, like
fear and intimidation.
Yeah, when President Obama was running for election, I had a lot of my Anglo friends write me in private, and their conversation in private was much different than it was in public.
Yeah,
because they also feared the persecution of. Well, I don't want to use the neighbor word, but they feared the persecution of being a neighbor lover.
A neighbor lover, a lover. Yeah.
Even though they in their hearts knew what was right, they knew the people that they come from, and they knew that just like the Black person was hung and here in Texas covered in oil and had body parts cut off from them, they understood that if they found themselves in agreement with that same Black person, even though they had white skin, that they could suffer the same thing. And so they were fearful, not of us, but they were fearful of their own people in a lot of cases.
To now.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now,
yeah.
that they are afraid of their own people.
Yeah.
Now, when I was doing my research too and looking at the different lynchings that were done in Texas, they were saying that there were some white people that were lynched, and the census said there was one Indian. So that means that they were probably lynched. Most of them were black because they were in lovers, or they were caught teaching one to read, or to giving someone a break, maybe at the drugstore or whatever,
or helping someone get to freedom,
or helping someone to get to freedom, or covering up for them, or hiding them out, or whatever. They were lynched too. So when you think about the thing that happened on January 6th, and they said lynch Mike Pence, well, that intimidation is still going on.
Yeah,
so,
and he knew it was a possibility too.
Yeah, in this day and time, that people would say that and have, these the cover up. That's, I don't know if y'all have been watching the trial. I guess it'll be a trial of what happened on January 6th. If you have not, shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you, because they are uncovering what's really going on in the world and what really happened. And you should want to know about everything that happened so that you can understand more fully what's going on and what's coming forth. Now, Pastor Johnny, you were going so fast there, but I wanted to go back a couple of things. Number one, they were making it difficult for us to be able to break away. And then some black folks would just tell you, where am I go? I don't have any money. I don't have any education. So it's like in the Bible days, it said, take us back to Egypt. At least we know we had, slop to eat.
Actually, in Quinita's family, they received some land before the Emancipation Proclamation.
Who is that?
Quinita's family, my wife's family.
Right.
And there was a gentleman there who met Christ and who actually freed him slaves before the Emancipation Proclamation. But the challenge that they ran into, much like once the other slaves were freed as well, those who were able to get some property, they were not able to buy seed. So they had a problem getting seed to actually plant on their grounds, and also food to actually feed their animals. So they literally, some of them had land and literally had to figure out how to do something with the land that they had. And so it forced a lot of them to actually sell their land to some of the white investors because they couldn't get seed, and it forced them from being landowners into actually being indentured servants because they just needed to work to feed their families. And so when you have situations like that, it makes it very challenging.
Because if you got 40 acres and a mule, the mule's got to eat.
Yeah.
You got to have a plow and materials and stuff to buy to work the land.
Yeah.
So people that own those stores, which the black folk didn't own, they were beholden. They were like in a prison, that they had the stuff, but there was nothing they could do with it. Yeah. And I think that's where the envy and the feeling intimidated when they wouldn't give it to the black folk, and they found a way to own their own businesses, to build their own cities separately. Then they went back and just burned it down because they knew there was nothing going to be done to them legally.
And I think this also leads into what you're talking about right now, Lady O, is a need for us to vote in these local elections. Part of why the Anglo brothers were able to get away with that in the past was that the government had put the onus on the states to actually carry out what was given down federally. So the government was giving these farmers seeds, but they were giving it through the state. And so the state had control over those seeds. So if the state decided not to distribute equally, then the government said, hey, well, we did what we were supposed to do. Now the states have to do what's right. And we're still in that situation today where the government tries to pass down money to be a blessing to the communities, but depending upon what state you're in and who's in control, they can actually reject the money that could be a blessing to you, or the seats that could be a blessing to you. And so that's why we have to be so attentive and aggressive in these local elections, because the same thing is happening. The power is returning back to the states, and they're saying, let the states decide. And if they let the states decide and we're not doing our job on these midterm elections, then we're going to find ourselves in a lot of trouble.
Okay, well, let's just kind of go there. That's why I was going to go toward the end, but Pastor Johnny, you open up that can of worms, and we're going to talk about it, because this is really what I really want you all to look at. We are going backwards, is the way they're taking us. When President Trump said, "Make America Great Again," I couldn't understand, what does he mean by again? Well, they want to take us backwards. Okay, and the way they're doing that, and Black people so busy watching all these comedy things and these things on the show that ain't about nothing. We need to wake up and turn those shows off and turn on the stations that talk about the news, what's going on. Because what's going on is they have, with Trump in office, they put people in positions that should not have been political, like the Supreme Court. It's not supposed to be political, okay? Because you're not supposed to vote for a party. You're supposed to vote for what's the best of a country, because you are the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Now Trump has put in his people who are have allegiance to him. So they are the ones that's govern the whole country. So that's why Roe versus Wade was been able to be reversed, because he put the right people in there to say they are the supreme law of the land, and this is the way it's going to be. And I don't care how many people, they think it's like 80-something% they said that did not want that to happen. It happened. Why did it happen? Because his people were in office and they did what they wanted to do with the slaves. And this is where I'm getting to my thing about the plantation. We are, when I'm saying slaves, I don't mean like slaves in back days, but I mean slaves in the way that you have the numbers, but you can't do anything with them.
Yeah.
You got the money, you living in the mansions, you got the education, but you cannot do anything about it, okay? The people who are in office will still oppress you and oppress the things that you have access to. And if they say, we want them to have these guns in the hands of 18-year-olds because we're trying to do a civil war, we want to make sure that people on the plantation are afraid of us, then we'll let them have it. Why else would they want those guns like that? And if you listen to what got me, I didn't know this, but when Trump was, when January 6th was happening, he knew that there were people that were coming to overthrow the government, that they had machine guns with them. And he said, let them in. They're my friends. They're not going to kill me.
Right.
So they need those guns to be able to take over, okay? But can we do anything about it? No, because they are the ones that empower. So let's look on, because I don't want to run out of time here. How do you change those things? Number one, you have got to have a state that represents the will of the people. So you got all of these Hispanics, you got all of these Blacks, all these Asians who need these different rights, these civil rights that we're talking about. But as long as you have a governor and lieutenant governor, all these people, the Supreme, we have our own Supreme Court. If those people are if they're making the laws, then we have no choice, and we have no say-so about what they do. And so what they did now, it used to be the federal government would protect us, but now the federal government is slanted with the Supreme Court being Republican. So now they're telling their buddies down below, the Supreme Court is saying, hey, let the states deal with it, whatever the states want to do. With Texans, that is not good for us. Somebody have a comment about that?
Well, I was going to say, honestly, it not to criticize or jump on President Obama, but now that the majority has shifted the way it has in the Supreme Court, it just makes you wish that President Obama and the Democratic Party had fought a lot harder to appoint that judge before he left office. He had the right to, but he allowed them to push him into a position where he backed off of what he had the right to do. And he should have taken a lot more of an aggressive stance with that and placed that person knowing that the potential for them to execute their plan with the Supreme Court was possible.
Well, let me let our Bishop is on because I wanted him to address that because that was the thing that I said too, Pastor John. This is why we've got to really, really get into about President Obama. Why didn't he put people in the Supreme Court? And so I think that's a good question. We need to make sure Black folk understand what really happened.
He had an opportunity to.
He was in there, but he was on the plantation. Go ahead.
Yeah, he had an opportunity.
It still needed the Senate, the way the government works, the Senate has to approve appointments, and Mitch McConnell
and the Republicans would not approve or let her
any
in.
Any of additional Supreme Court candidate that he appointed, and in his last year of being president, and they held up a number of his judges that he appointed in the federal level. So it still takes the Senate to approve.
So you see what's happening out in the courts now. Biden is there. He's trying to do some things, but they said we're going to block. First of all, when we first get in control with Trump, we're going to slap out everything Obama did. And they did pretty much all of it except for Obamacare, because a lot of white people are on Obamacare and they like that medicine and whatever. So that's benefited them. So they couldn't touch that, But and I think Obama knew that. He knew that if he could get that in there, it would stay. Everything else that he did, they're gonna wipe it away. Okay. So what we need to understand is that Obama was our president, but he was Black. And he was Democrat. So there are certain things that the Congress is not going to allow to happen because we don't have enough. Now, let me tell you, we don't have enough people in the Democratic Party that will even vote for Democrats. We got two Democrats in the Democratic Party. We can't even depend on their vote. But the Republicans stick together, and that's how they were able to do theirs. Plus, they got two of ours that's going to swing their way. So, Mitch McConnell was determined at a force that he would not allow Obama to do it. So he wanted to, and just know that if President Obama had done anything near of what Trump did, there would have been a hanging.
He'd have been out.
Yeah, because they would not have allowed. They would have taken. He would be in prison by now. Maybe like 2 or 3 things that Trump did. He'd be in prison. So it's not a fair country. It's not like it was. It's getting better. Or is it getting better? Do you think it's getting better? I think that the majority of the people, our young people, are trying to make it better. And I think the older people, the guards, know that. So they're trying to seal the deal so that the young people will have to fight probably 10 or 20 years to get these civil rights back again. If the grown-up folk today in Texas don't stand up for our children, it's going to take them a long time to get it right. They'll get it right, but it's going to take a while. So anybody else have a comment while I'm looking at my papers here?
No, I think you've said pretty much everything. It's just one of those things where this kind of feeds back into your argument, even with I just said about Obama, is the importance of the local elections to get people like McConnell out. If we're not voting and doing what we're supposed to do, then even him as president, or even what Biden is trying to do now, they will not have the support or the numbers to actually represent the will of the people. So the people have to be a participant in our own freedom. And that means that we have to fight, we have to vote, we have to be vocal, we have to be vigilant. We have to do all of those things and can't wait for someone to do it for us. And it's gonna take a heroic type of effort.
So
Okay.
how do we get, I'm sorry, how do we get the younger ones to start understanding that, you know, what they're taking away from us is taken away from them too. So they have to
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
up with something.
They got to vote. You know, when we were, you know, politicking and so forth, the years before, the young people, we don't have enough of them voting. So we need to make, even the ones who are marching, I think they were saying all of them didn't vote. They marched, but they didn't vote. And let's go back, because Bishop made a big point here too, and I just reminded me that what happened to get us off in the situation we are in now is not Obama. It's the fact that the people did not vote for Hillary Clinton, and they let her get in there. And the people who did not vote for Hillary Clinton was a lot of Black people who were holding it against her. What her husband did, he did, you know, with the prison thing. And then the big one, I believe, is that people did not want a woman to be president.
That's what I think.
So they opted to have a man, any kind of man, before they'd have Hillary Clinton. And so therefore they didn't put her in. And then the vote started being split, and things happened so that the power was weakened. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was some the female portion. Some people didn't want a female to be president, but then there was another good portion of young people who felt like Bernie Sanders had been done wrong.
Yeah.
And then those people, which would have been the ones that would have guaranteed her getting in, because they were following the momentum of President Obama's election and legacy, they refused to vote. So the combination of women that didn't like her, because there were a lot of women that didn't like her, and then young people who refused to vote because they were kind of caught up in the movement.
They wanted Bernie.
Yeah, it kind of sealed her fate, and that was unfortunate because they didn't really think about the greater loss or the greater good. And I think Sister Clark is the younger people are like the children of Israel. They understand that the older generation is going to die out, and they understand also that the majority of their generation is not thinking like that, and that as we continue to move closer to this melting pot, that there will be a day and time where we will all, at some level, I'm being silly, be people of color, because people will have, you know, intermarried and blended families so much. So because we're moving a little bit more towards that, I don't think that our young people see it as a red hot, because they understand that the foolishness that we're doing right now, it won't survive.
But you know what? I think that this abortion thing, whether you're for abortion or not, or we say we're for life, and that's life before and after the child is here. So, you know, these people, they don't want you to have an abortion. But I said, so what do you want to do? Just keep having babies and put them in a class system? I want more people to be able to pick peas and cotton. I want you all to go to college. I want you guys. So I'm thinking it's a cycle that they're putting us in. That's why I call it a plantation. Because back in the plantation days, they wanted these Black women to pop these babies out. Because they need somebody else to work the field. As soon as that child was able to carry a sack or whatever, they put them in the field, working, doing something, slopping hogs, whatever. They wanted the workforce. And so I think that it's just my own opinion, but I wonder whether or not that's what they're trying to make America become, where they have control over the classes of people and how they do, all to support and benefit them. Like you said with Layman today in your sermon today, he really thought about it. If I lose him, who's gonna work this? Who's gonna run this? I can't do it. And I know back on the plantation, that's what happened. They were like, all these slaves are free. Who gonna clean up after Miss Silly? I mean, Miss Ann. Who gonna do her bath water? Who gonna take care of the children of Miss Ann? Who gonna work all these plantations? And so it's always been about money. It's always been about oppressing and those people that have and have not. So I think that in closing out with this point, before we close out, we got to get people to understand what's really going on and to understand that there are seasons. And the season that we had of living this way is almost over. And if we don't stand up and fight for it, it's going to be a new season for Black folk. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much wealth you have and intelligence you have. You will be just like a poor person because your rights, you want to be able to even, your vote won't even count. They got it where they can overturn votes. If somebody wins, they can overturn that if they decide to, that it wasn't right. And you've seen how Trump has done this, carried on and on and on and said it was stolen when it wasn't stolen. But because they have that right and that, you know, they can do it legally, they do it. Can you imagine if somebody wins that is not, you know, the person they want? They just throw it out and put in who they want to put in there. So my point is, I have been bringing to you several weeks of information about who's running for election, up for election in the state of Texas. I've given you the names, the titles, what they do, how it affects you. If you have not seen that, you need to go back and watch those shows. That's where you're going to be able to get an informed vote. And then not only do you do that, you got to make sure that you, your family, and everybody that you know, your group, your sororities, your fraternities, your churches, you got to make sure that they know that and that they all go to the polls. And so I would say that everybody in this world needs to be able to at least take 25 to 50 people to the poll because they know you. I'm going to be trying to get mine up way more than that. I know I am just by even the show. But it's no longer, it's time out for I voted, put your little sticker on. So what? That's one vote. Right. We need thousands of votes. And so you need to be putting it on your Facebook pages, putting it on your chat. You need to be on your cell phone every day. That'd be your little duty to send them out. And that's what it's going to take. Going to the colleges and helping the college people get organized. Because here's another thing. And giving money. Was it $30 million? Who was it? Oh, Lord, I'm get the wrong number. But anyway, look at how much money is spent on elections that are won. And they're coming from people who have billions of dollars. And so you want to give somebody who's running for election $25, it's not going to work. They need more than that. I remember let me just tell you this too, that do y'all remember when we were really trying to help Senator Royce West get to the Senate? Mm-hmm. Okay. And he was doing really good. We were working very hard. And the Democratic Party, this is another thing I fought against the Democratic Party. They chose to back another person, a woman. She's a white female. And that money was taken from Royce and given to her, along with he had the backing. She had the backing. He didn't. So he lost that race. If he had won that race, guys, we'd have a senator up there fighting for us. But because we did not do all we could do, and I point to myself too, but I did the best I could. I was on there trying to get it done. But you need to know that voting or your lack of voting has consequences, not just for that day, not just for you. It affects so many things that are to come. Who can appoint judges? Who can appoint the Supreme Court? Who can do this? So we needed Senator West to be up there fighting for us, but because the Democrats split that vote, and I'm hoping they'll get a lot wiser, because I think in my own brain, I could be wrong, that was intentional. Because after it was all over, I didn't hear anything more about her really trying to run. She didn't reach out to us to help her. It's just like she fell off the face of the earth, and so she lost. And we lost. And that's why we don't have a senator in there right now that we need to have in that place to vote. So questions, comments, guys, about the 4th of July. Thank you, Tisha, for putting voting locations and information up there for us to learn where you need to vote. They've changed so many laws, and they've messed around with them. And all of this is to keep us from voting. And they're just chiseling away at it. So spread the word, get on the campaign yourself to figure out how many people you can go talk to, how many people you can give information to, so they'll know. And so however you vote, at least you will know. And if you refuse to vote, or if you don't vote, shame on you. Don't say anything when we're all black on the plantation. I'm going to say, hush, I don't even want to hear it. Last day to register to vote is October the 11th. So go ahead and register. Even your kids that are graduating high school, if they turn 18 before November, I think it's the day. Anyway, look on your stuff so I don't tell you the wrong thing. But you need to read. Go Google it if you have questions. But you have to register to vote. Make sure you register to vote, and all your family and friends are. And then look on that vote.gov. It's harrisvotes.com is the one for Harris County. And they've got some more that you can look at. We'll put them up there. But the last day to register to vote, when it's October the 11th, it'll be here before you know it. Register to vote, guys. We can change this world. We don't have to go back on the plantation. But if we don't do what we need to do, and if we don't get the right people in to make the choices for us, we're going to be right on the plantation with everybody else, doing whatever they say we need to do, and try not to offend anybody, because we are stuck. And we leave it into the hands of our children to fix something that's already been fixed, to fight for something that's already been fought for. Our forefathers have died for this. All these years, you talk about the 4th of July. Do we have something to celebrate? No, we need to be sitting somewhere. I say we need to be collaborating. Don't celebrate, collaborate. We are about to have a serious situation happen here. So all the red soda water and the watermelon, yeah, they want you to do all that. They don't want you to collaborate, though. But let me tell you something. They have been collaborating and meeting ever since Obama got in there, even before, and they put everything aside to make sure that they were ready to do what they needed to do when the time came. And when Trump got in there, they said, the time is here. And they did what they set out to do. Do you have a plan? What are you setting out to do to change Texas and change America? So that's what I say. So I said, take your shades off. Happy 4th of July. Let's say that next year. See what you do. And we'll see you next year at the 4th of July. Goodbye for now. We'll see you next week on Tea Talk with Lady O at 3. Bye-bye now.